No.
Welcome to News from the Real World. Brought to you by
Sasha Swartz.
Cheerios.
We're saying our names. Can we please start over?
I'm Sasha Schwartz.
I'm Annie Sherman.
I'm John Walker Mooseberger.
I'm Sophie Chin.
And this podcast is brought to you by Cheerios.
Which we didn't have permission to use in this podcast.
But we wish we did.
Brings us perfectly into our first article.
ESPN asked to pay more than $15 million annually to license ambient stadium music, The Hollywood Reporter.
All right, so basically what this article is about is ESPN broadcasts a lot of basically every professional sports game, and they don't want to pay copyright for all of the songs that they have to broadcast to bring to their audiences. And so the company that owns the copyright to all of the music that's played in the stadiums wants them to pay $15 million, a lump sum annually, to have permission to use every single one of their something like 4,000 different songs for as much as they want to. ESPN wants to pay individually for each time they play a song live on air.
Like song bites, right? Like,
yeah.
like things that signal like when you score a point or like the beginning of the
Pretty
game.
much, and you'd hear it over the roar of a crowd and everything, which it's a little strange to me that ESPN has to pay for copyright again, because I'm sure the stadium is already, the baseball team is already paying copyright for it, but
yeah,
for some reason ESPN has to pay copyright on this, and they want to pay individually per song, and the company is going pretty much a very reasonable route for them and saying, no, we want you to pay all at once because we don't want to have to figure out how many times you actually played our songs in every single broadcast, so you're just going to pay us this much annually, and they own the copyright, so they can do that.
so they can do that, and I also don't think it's a big deal for ESPN to pay a measly $15 million. Like, I'm sure that's not an issue for them.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting because this kind of leads me to think about when are copyrights going to extend to like people in stadiums and in sports in general just playing any song. Like, during halftime shows just getting like the crowd riled up. Like when will they start paying for licenses to that? And then you think about like, oh, I don't even know that because I don't know sports. But then you think about, it goes even farther, like what about at concerts and like even just like DJs at like
that's
big social events, like when is that going to be the next to happen?
Yeah.
And should we be so obsessed over this thing?
because sound like we hear it all the time and like songs we hear all the time, so we don't think about copyright as much as like when we see something,
Exactly.
we know it's copyright.
It's like so iconic, and like we talked a lot about like the Happy Birthday copyright and like the oldies songs copyrights that like everyone sings, and it's so iconic and everyone knows, and it's like these like you were saying like the da 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 da, like these like stupid noises that we all know because they're in every single game and they're on TV all the time, and we never think about someone owning those and getting paid for other people to use it. So I don't know, it's kind of weird.
Yeah, it's like, are colors gonna get copyrighted?
Yeah. I mean, from like a design kind of standpoint, obviously you want like to own your work and you want to have like the rights to it, but like when can't you just accept the fact that people are going to use it and you should just appreciate that like it is used everywhere and be like, I've already made enough money, like why can I become sharks about it?
And we don't really think a ton about like I don't know if this is like sound design, but I guess it is like for sports games and like on like big like televised TV events, because we don't really see it as like an art or anything, and so that's what I go to when I think about copyright is like art and like paintings and like layered songs and stuff. But I guess this is just as a big deal if ESPN is making such a big deal about it. But I really don't think they can do anything about it. The company's asking for it.
Yeah, I mean, one of the interesting things about copyright to me, and like currently, is the fact that it hasn't been updated really since a long time ago. And copyright is, I mean, it's been updated incrementally, but there needs to be a really big overhaul, because particularly in the digital age where something can come and go in a matter of years, something like a huge portion of the market can come and go in a few years. I think it's really important that while copyrights are there to protect companies' investments in research, I think it's really important to kind of open that up and avoid monopolies that last 60 years because
because information is so widespread now, like it's so easy to come across everything. It's not as much of like a stealing thing as it is like just something that people happen across, and so like everything's so familiar to us now. Cool.
So, jumping from one copyright article
to the
right into the next one.
Klingon language, pointy ears, mood and theme of Star Trek, all copyrighted from. Oh, we didn't say where the article was from. The last article was from The Hollywood Reporter by Eric Gardner, and this one is from Paramount Claims, Reason.com. Oh, sorry. All copyrighted Paramount Claims from Reason.com, Ed Krajewski.
And so the interesting thing about this article for me is that Paramount is suing another company which made basically a DIY Star Trek movie, fan-funded movie, and they're suing them for copyright of Star Trek themes, and that's weird for me because I think suing the idea that you can own a theme, particularly as a corporation that kind of has the money and the lawyers to back up that understanding, it's a little weird to me that you can copyright a theme because it's not really there's something original to it, but it's also not really
And who can say, like, I got this exact thing from them because, like, our world, like,
science fiction
everything,
is so widespread.
it's so widespread and it's all wrapped up in different things, and without even realizing you pull from other sources, too.
And, like, we all have, like, our own definitions of what different genres mean to us, so, like, it's so hard because for me, this might be science fiction, but for you, it might not be, like, it's so hard to, like...
And, like, I'm not a Star Trek nerd. I've never seen it. But, like, I know it's, like, a big part of our culture.
I'm a Star Trek nerd.
I'm a much bigger Star Wars nerd than I am Star Trek.
But you've seen Star Trek.
I've actually only seen the recent Star Trek.
Okay.
There's more than one?
And there's, like, 10 or 15 Star Trek movies.
Gotcha,
and then, like, a solid 8 or 9 seasons of Star Trek TV shows. And,
so this is like a big empire.
It's a big thing, So
Star Trek is like,
It's like very much embedded in our culture, and it's like nerd culture and like little boy culture and like what like parents show to their kids. And I just think it's strange that like such vague ideas from it would be, especially on something like this. Like you said, it was like it was intentionally like a spin-off of it. And so it's like, of course, they addressed that they were like taking themes from it. Like that's what it's been.
Yeah, and I think just trying to find the next extent to this. Like people upload like parodies on YouTube all the time and like spoofs of things, and like they can be really popular. They can have millions of views. Like, are they going to start suing them?
Yeah.
I think like the big how to show the biggest success of a project is how many people try to copy it, because that's like how much they admire it.
And this is not, like, malicious at all. It's not like we're coming up with our own original, So
I want to know how much money this
film,
this like spin-off of it is making, because I guess if they're making a lot of money, that's probably why they're trying to pursue this court action.
I think it's reasonable to expect some claims, because you are making a spin-off of this universe that you've crafted, and obviously there's a lot of money and time that was spent into crafting that universe, and so by borrowing that universe, I think it's reasonable to do that. But the weird part for me is like copyrighting themes, like what are the themes in Star Trek?
And by now the elements of the universe
heroism in space.
Exactly. They've been like they're in all kinds of movies about aliens. Like here it says like the one of the themes is the science fiction, action, adventure, mood, and theme, and it's like that's like literally every movie that's out.
Right, and are they like the original creators of it? Like,
I don't know, but
track that back to so much.
Yeah, and also by now, like that's not. I mean, it's not an original idea anymore. That's just a genre of movie that we're used to.
Well,
and
it also opens up the doors for like big companies to dominate, an industry, because you can't, whether or not you can afford to pay it, or whether or not you should. If you get taken to court by Disney or someone,
you have no hope.
Yeah.
Like
they have all the lawyers in the world. You're hopeless.
Yeah, and even if you win because you have the solidest case, you're still spending $1 million on court fees and lawyers.
Yeah.
Which is it just opens the door to a whole bunch of abuse.
And then like what's the fun in that? Because like all of our art is influenced by other things. Like it even says like specific logos, alien appearances, fictional technology like the teleporter and the beaming up, and it's like that's all just like iconic in every like other kind of media that we see. Yeah. So I think it's kind of silly.
Yeah, and I don't know. It's also kind of like limiting what people
Okay. Our next article is New Jack City is turning 25. New revelations from its writer will blow your mind, from Ambrosia for Heads by Jake Payne. And so this article is about New Jack City, which is a film turning 25. And it's basically this long interview with the writer talking about like his inspiration for it and how it feels to have a project he wrote such a long time ago like still be being watched and being popular, and kind of how it related to his past experiences and growing up in like not the best neighborhood, and about like racism and drug use, and kind of like how it's important to bring those things to the mainstream, especially with, and he mentioned some the recent events with like the Grammys and like hashtag like white Oscars and whatever, which I thought was interesting. And like I'd never heard of this film, but the stuff that the writer said like related a lot to present day too. So it's not like old themes, like obviously this stuff is still prevalent.
Well, and I love reading about old films because like I miss so much, and I've heard obviously going back to really like unknown films, 2001: A Space Odyssey, which is something that like it's a movie that I'd heard a whole lot about, and I'd heard about it being revolutionary and good for a whole bunch of different reasons, but I just never found the time to watch it until a couple weeks ago. I went back and watched it, and it's really interesting to see like to go back and watch these old films. And just see how much has changed, because have you guys seen 2001: Space Odyssey? No. Okay, well it opens with this 3-minute long sequence of a black screen with some music behind it, which is, and then you slowly see the planet come into view after that 3 minutes. But it was a really interesting thing to watch because it's from, I forget when it's copyrighted, 1996? Or no, 1960 something, I think actually. But anyway, it's like 40 years ago, 40 years ago, and it was something that I was sitting there and I was like uncomfortable as a modern audience watching it because it didn't feel right, because the pace is so wrong. The new Star Wars movie, like you're right in there, from the beginning, absolute action for 2 hours, and it makes an impact to have nothing. And then also, the next scene is literally 6 minutes of apes. 6 minutes of apes. And it's basically, it's showing the dawn of humanity. Where these apes slowly, over these 6 minutes, you watch them evolve to a point where they start using bones to kill other animals. And it was really strange to watch because it was something completely different from any film that would ever be successful now.
I feel like the films today are like so commercialized and like pack as much of special effects as you can possibly have in it, and like the storyline isn't like I just feel like they don't put as much thought in it, and they just. And even if it's not that, they just always follow the same pattern. It's like something really big, and then the reaction to it, and then it's slowing down, and then something else, and it just follows the same wavelength. And I think what's really cool is that they bring back these kind of things, and are like, it might not have all of that, but like the meaning is still valuable.
What's like crazy about this is that like obviously 25 years old isn't that old, but like it's before like our time, obviously, and it's like all like the writer was talking about like how he grew up in this neighborhood and how it addresses all these things, like how he went to like research school and then he would go back to like this like hood environment where there was like gangs and racism and poverty, and it's like that's also like really prevalent. Like prejudice against people is still obviously a big deal, and it's like I don't know, it's like sad that something this old could still be so relevant, but it is. And I don't know, it's like, and the writer was saying that like although he's happy that the film has survived for this long, it's like discouraging to know that it is still needed. Cool. Next is 9 Screen-to-Broadway Disney musicals from Backstage.com, written by Jack Smart.
So, jumping on a much happier note, everyone knows and loves the Disney classics, and Broadway kind of took them over and put them on the stage for all of us. I know personally I've seen Lion King and Newsies and Beauty and the Beast, and they're some of my absolute favorite shows.
I didn't realize Beauty and the Beast was Disney.
Are you serious?
It never occurred to me until this moment that Beauty and the Beast was a Disney musical.
What? Kidding me?
I just thought it was a classic musical.
Mary Poppins? Did you know
Mary
that
Poppins,
was Disney?
Mary Poppins.
Little Mermaid.
I didn't know Sister Act was Disney.
Yeah, Sister Act surprised me too.
Although I remember that it came from a movie and Newsies as well. I didn't realize it was produced by Disney.
Mm-hmm. I think it might kind of be one of those like time period things where like when you think of Disney, you automatically are thinking of, at least, I don't know if it's different for boys, but like the Disney princesses and like those stories.
And Frozen's coming.
Oh yeah, that's a new one coming.
I so wish I could
there's
work
some
on
older
it.
Disney.
I don't know if you
I
felt
think
the
the
same
scenery,
way.
of course.
But
I think
like,
it'll be all media though.
When I don't know, it's Disney.
But like there has to be moving stuff, but then like all the ice powers.
I was sitting in that movie the first time I saw it because I saw it 3 times.
And you cried.
But almost. But when the first time the castle came up, and I literally was like sitting in the movie theater, and I was like, "All right, pause the story for a second because I need to figure out how I'm putting that on a stage."
Yeah,
I saw something about how like she'll like walk up the ice stairs, and there'll be something like moving, like she's like walking like up and up. I don't know.
Kind of like Pride Rock and Lion King.
Well, because I remember the Boston Opera House did this Autism Speaks sponsored event for the Lion King where they did like an autism-friendly performance. So I went with my family and my brother. Not that he really needs to go to like. It was like the lights were less bright and like the sound wasn't as loud and it was just meant to be like less of a sensory overload for people. And it was like a really great like thing that they did. And they also had like safe rooms and like you didn't need to be quiet because like some people can't. And they had like rooms where you could go where parents could take their children if they were like acting up or like weren't happy or something. And
That's
they had
really awesome.
Yeah, it was like a good opportunity. And
what show was it?
The Lion King.
The Lion King.
And I'd never seen The Lion King, so this was the first time I'd seen a Disney musical. And it was obviously like an unorthodox experience because like there was a lot of chatter and I was like really emotional because it's really weird being in a room full of like other people who like share your same experiences, and there was like kind of like my brother is older than me, but there are a lot of like little kids, and like it's like weird how like it's like such a diverse range of people. And I was also like, oh, The Lion King, like everyone's seen The Lion King, and but I was sitting it's like totally incredible. Beautiful, and like the costumes and the scenery, and like I was sitting really really close so I could see like the puppetry and like the people like who like move when they make like the face in the sky, and it was just like a very emotional thing. But it was like I don't know because I think
a really special show.
Yeah, and I usually saw Disney as being like, oh, it's like for kids, it's commercial, but I think also in this situation, it was just like it's still art. Like
yeah, I think that's really interesting to bring up because all of these shows have like junior versions too, and as someone with a background in children's theater. The Lion King Jr. actually just came out last summer, and I worked on a production of that where it's all elementary school kids doing it. And I think it's really interesting that when Lion King came out with it through MTI, like, there isn't a non-kids version for it. Like, Beauty and the Beast has, like, the different, like, levels of, like, junior kids and, like, the normal version. But Lion King just does the younger ones.
There are very few times in my life that my mother has ever been upset with me. One of them was a couple of years ago when I admitted that when she had taken me to see Lion King as like a 4 or 5-year-old, that I have no recollection of it whatsoever. And she was very upset because she paid like $45 for my ticket so I could go sit in a seat and not remember it.
My older sister, same thing, like 4 or 5 years old, but she remembers it because she was sitting like really close to the aisle and the hyenas came running down and it terrified her like so much.
I remember going. I don't remember a single thing about the musical.
Yeah. I remember I went with my cousin, I think it was, and it was like one of the first shows, because I was like fairly younger, that I was like, oh my god, the whole time. Even though you know exactly what's going to happen, I think a lot of that is kind of attributed to like the Disney magic.
Yeah, it is magic. And it's like, I don't think necessarily because the show is spectacle doesn't mean that it's not worthwhile. Like I think spectacle for the sake of spectacle is also good. Like, and Disney also has like wholesome messages.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think people tend to like belittle either. I feel like, and it, like, I think it's for everyone.
I think it's so valuable to.
Yeah.
I think Disney does such a good job of embedding their story with enough for kids and adults to really value. Particularly now, there's rough phase there for a bit. But I think like the last 10 years of Disney movies have been like such a really strong showing for just really excellent detailed storytelling.
Yeah, and really pushing like forward in our time, and like that they are trying to branch out and have like more diverse characters.
I'm still working on that.
Yeah, but like they're like actually pushing for it.
Frozen is a step forward.
It's funny how like before I read this article, I didn't know that a lot of them were on Broadway, like Little Mermaid or Tarzan. Like I had no idea they're on Broadway.
I've done a lot of them, that like the very first thing that we do when we start the project is like we look at the designs from the Broadway, and you're just like, this is incredible.
No.
And
Yeah.
it's,
I have that money and that money and
Yeah, if anything, like for the design aspects alone, like that would just be something.
Alright. Next is Marriott Theatre faces criticism over Evita casting from timeout.com by Chris Vire.
So the Marriott Theatre is facing controversy over the casting of its upcoming production of Evita, which so yeah, pretty much the entire show is composed of white actors with only one actor that's of
Latin heritage.
Latin heritage.
They were kind of like general about it.
Yeah, the article is really general about it with Latin heritage. With
Whatever that means.
Yeah, and it's just, and then afterwards, they responded sort of with a letter, and I just don't know. I feel like this.
Oh my god.
This instance discussed in this article can be applicable to a lot of what's happening in theater and like just whitewashing. I feel like in the entertainment industry in general.
it's so prominent right
it's
now.
so prominent, and
There's at least like 5 articles a week on the page about like Scarlett Johansson was last week and like just, like against Asian people and Black people and Hispanic people, and there's just no end to it.
yeah.
But I do have to say, I think it's so incredible now that, like, with all our technology and, like, the so fast pace of information that, like, there is so much people, like, saying something about it. They're like, because I kind of feel like if this had happened a couple years ago, not much would have, like, came up out of it. But everyone now is like, okay, let's fix it. Like, come on, this, like, I feel like people are, like, trying to do something.
Well, I don't think it would have been, it opens up new ways for people to communicate with each other, which I think has really opened the doors. I did a podcast yesterday that talked about the, I'm sorry. I did a podcast yesterday that talked about, I forget what the name of the test is, but it basically, asks, are there two women that talk to each other? The Bechdel test. That talk, are there two women that talk to each other about anything that's not a man? And it's something like 50% of movies fail.
Yeah.
Wow.
More than
That's
that.
really
Yeah,
interesting.
it's like more than 50%. And then of the all-female writing staff, which out of the 500 in the article, it was like 7 movies. It was 100% passed the test. And so it's writing about what you know, and then that becomes those movies are successful. So those that has to be the reason, is because it's about white men.
I feel like with race, it's like especially tricky, like especially for like I've noticed a lot of stuff like this happening with like about Hispanic and Asian people, because like people could like potentially be Hispanic or Asian and not look like at this certain like stereotype that people think that they should look like, and so that's why Scarlett Johansson is being cast as an Asian woman even though she's white.
And also I think a huge part of it is that they want it to be marketable, because they're already telling a story from Japan, so they want at least the actors to be white, so that it's like a lot of people will go see
or
it.
at least a name they recognize. But it becomes a cycle, because when you don't cast any Asian actors because they're not recognizable names,
they won't
then
be recognized.
no Asian names
It's
become
never
recognizable.
Get better.
We also talked about this during like Cloud Tectonics, which we're still kind of like fuzzy about. Like people said that they all had some Hispanic heritage. I'm pretty sure only the guy who played the only non-Hispanic character had Hispanic
I
heritage.
think I heard that the girl did at least some to some degree.
Yeah, I mean, I don't, and
it's
that's like hard because I don't
tricky
really know.
topic.
Yeah, I don't really know how much it matters, but like, because the only thing that really bothered me about that was like the accents felt a little bit stereotypical.
Yeah.
And I think that's a hard line to cross. And it's like, okay, maybe she's like, let's say she was like a quarter Hispanic, but then she's like putting on this fake accent that is not part of her background, and then I'm like, but like I did a show in high school where there was like a really strong, thick New York accent that they didn't obviously have. But I feel like that's way different. But I was like, then can actors not put on accents of their own race? And it's like, could she like pass as Hispanic just because she's a little tan? And it's like, I don't know. It was just like a tricky line, I think. And it's not as harsh of a line, I think, for like black actors and white actors, because usually those shows are written specifically for them, which is still another problem. But it's like,
I think it's also different in the world of open casting calls.
Yeah.
Where at CMU there is a limited number of people, and so like if you're a quarter Hispanic in an educational environment where like that's your option, like that's your best choice that you can make.
But that's also like a CMU problem for not accepting more.
Yeah, exactly. Because like everything starts here, so like if you don't accept more people, actors that come here, they're all gonna go out.
But
there
then it
really
also
is
brings
no
up
excuse in the public world where you can get people people like that.
Yeah.
But in our educational environment, it also brings up the fact that, like, just because we don't have the right actors with the right heritage or whatnot, doesn't mean we shouldn't do these other shows that call for them. Because, like, it's important to, like, still do it and be able to experience that. But then you're, like, walking this really weird line.
I know, because I thought Cosmic
Between,
Coast was a beautiful show, and I was like, this is like one of the favorites I've seen this year, like just the storyline and the poetry of it. But then I was still kind of uneasy. Like, my high school just recently did for, like, their fall musical In the Heights, and my high school is, like, 80% white. And so that was kind of weird. Like, my director's white, and most of the, like, almost all the actors were white, and she had to bring in a different girl from a different school to play Abuela, because that was, like, a very race specific. But then they had, like, an Asian guy, too, and it was just kind of, like, a very different casting of it. And I don't know, because I think In the Heights is a very, like, important musical, and that I feel like that is almost, like, doing a disservice to it by not.
But I think it's so incredible that, like, they still do it and open themselves up to criticism doing that as an educational place, because now those people cast get so much more of an experience and, like, can really discover so much more about how these other people live that they don't know. And I think that there is definitely a difference between an educational environment and a public.
Yeah. This is more problematic, I think, because it's, like, a profession.
Right. And that's where it needs to change more than anything.
Yeah. But it starts in education. So.
Yeah.
Alright. Our next article is Stephen Sondheim, Commercial Theater Limits Variety of Musicals from the Stage by David Hutchison.
So Stephen Sondheim is a celebrated composer and lyricist. So he worked on Sweeney Todd and Into the Woods
and Company.
And so pretty much in this article he says that commercial theater is so fragile because we all, like, just work on what's marketable instead of, like, expanding our creative horizons. and how, like, off-Broadway shows are, like, there's more variety in it, but you can't, like, make a living off of it.
Yeah.
And so it's just a problem of, like, if you want to make money or if you want to, like, explore.
And, like,
That's I think the hardest thing for every artist.
There's
starving artists.
But there's a security in, like, the Broadway musical, you know?
Right.
Gentleman's Guide to Love and Murder.
Yeah.
Classic Broadway musical. A very good one. They did a very good job with it. But it is the classic, typewriter.
Story.
That's not typewriters does not make any sense in that context. But that is like the very typical Broadway musical.
And it sells. Like, that's the thing, is that, like, it sells, you make money off of it.
Absolutely. It's like not even not valid. It's just like that isn't all what we should be focusing on.
But then there's also Hamilton, which, like, to take the jump on that is easy. Well, it's Lin-Manuel Miranda. So, like, there's a fair chance that this is going to sell well, even if it, if it didn't turn out to be Hamilton.
Yeah.
But I think, like, taking the risk is so scary because it's, you don't know that it's going to sell, and when you're investing millions and millions of dollars into a show, you want it to sell.
And I think the biggest thing that differentiates art between anything else when you're investing is that, like, you put not only so much time and money, but, like, you put, like, all, like, a you and, like, your soul into it, and it's, like, you're opening yourself up to criticism to yourself, and it, like, puts you in a really vulnerable position, like, financially, obviously, but also just, like, as who you are, and I think that can be one of the scariest things.
Well, like, I think, like, commercial theater is getting better and, like, less typical, because, like, 5 years ago, I never would have thought that, like, a musical with, like, an pretty much all non-white cast, or, like, a musical about a lesbian growing up in a conservative home and, like, finding herself. Like, I loved Fun Home. Like, I thought that was, and I was watching it, and I was like, this is crazy. This won Best Musical. Like, this is, like, such an important story, and, like, not at all, like, the typical, like, Broadway musical that you
But
would
it's also possible that, like, what our typical is changing.
Exactly, yeah.
Which is what Stephen was kind of warning against, is saying,
Stephen, you're on first name basis.
Stephen and I went out to coffee this morning.
Wow.
But he's warning against, locking ourselves into, okay, Hamilton sells now, let's all do Hamilton. And kind of saying, look, let's find something else.
But it's interesting for him to say that as someone that's really taught in Into the Woods and all these things. Like,
that
is what I see as the mainstream.
Yeah.
But I guess at their time,
but did he see it as that, or was he
exactly? Like, Sweeney Todd's pretty edgy, but is it anymore? Like,
But like Into the Woods, you're taking all your classic fairy tales. Like how edgy is that?
Yeah. And how like socially relevant is that? I don't know if he's saying that things should be more socially relevant or just more like
different.
Yeah, creative, I guess.
Well, and he also talks about British theater as being a little more diverse and interesting.
Did you say you saw a West End?
Yeah, I saw Wicked in London's West End, and it might just been like the whole experience of going overseas and like seeing something different, but it was a lot more. I don't want to just say it was better, but like because I'd seen Wicked on Broadway here, but I definitely preferred the West End show. And I don't know if it was like the atmosphere, if it was the acting. Like I can't really put my finger on it because it was
just like being a tourist.
Yeah, it was like a very. There wasn't that many differences, but I don't know. The quote that he has,
he said, of course British audiences are different from Americans. They listen. And we were kind of like, what does that mean?
I did a show called Blood Brothers my senior year, which is a British musical, and oh my god, it is amazing. But it basically follows this set of twins that were separated at birth for financial reasons, and they grow up in two different households, and basically it centers around the idea of superstition and this and. Basically, it's a very British show. It's not. It's very different from the classic American musical in that the songs don't drive the action. The songs expression emotion, and then you move forward. The songs are not the driving force of the musical. They're another tool.
And it's not as spectacle. I mean, that just might be because that's the example we brought up. But
he also touches upon this idea of like old European language and like the kind of like antiquity of it all, and like how Americans just don't have that history behind their literature, which might be true.
I don't know that. I think if Blood Brothers came to Broadway, I think it would sell very well. But I think it's the hesitation, to commit to saying, will American audiences really like this?
I really don't think that much about the difference between America and UK. I think about the difference between America and like all other countries, but not because I see UK as being like fairly similar. I guess just because we're both English speaking, but I didn't realize there was such a big difference.
Yeah, I definitely think there is a difference, but I don't know. I mean, I don't think I can say what the difference is because I don't have enough experience with both. But I don't know. I don't know if it's a bad thing,
right?
Like, because I think every culture should be valued for what it is.
Yeah.
So
like it's not a better or worse situation.
Yeah.
Our next article is Behind the Scenes of Cirque du Soleil's Broadway Debut from Out.com by David Clark.
Spinning to the complete other end of the spectrum.
Well, I really like this article because it was interesting because at first I was like, why is there an article from Out.com on the news page? And then I saw it was about Cirque du Soleil, and I was like, oh, okay. And then it's this performer who's in the new Cirque du Soleil upcoming Broadway show, Paramore, talking about not just his role in Paramore, but also about his relationship with his fiance, Josh.
He's so cute.
Who is in Natasha Pierre and the Great Comet of 1812, which was just at ART in Boston, which was cool. And so I was like, it was just really endearing to hear about their relationship, and it's like such an interesting dynamic. I think that there must be between two Broadway performers, and like because we're around each other all the time, and like I can imagine like being in a romantic relationship with someone who is just on that same like high level as he is, like, and it was just like it was nice to read like a personalized thing because I feel like people don't really think about gay people in this like personalized way.
I think that's if this becomes very successful, I think that can be part of it because I think people are really going to see it, and that is going to be like something really powerful within the show.
Yeah, and like already obviously they're like pretty famous and they're working in New York, and he's saying that people look up to them as a couple, as like a ideal couple, and it's just like obviously it's like giving also more promotion to the upcoming to Paramore, but it was just nice to read something like wholesome and nice, and like how they one of them is working on a show and the other one makes dinner, and it's just like I don't know, it's like good to hear that like people working at this level are still happy and still fulfilling relationships.
It's good to see like the progress that like
exactly
we're making as a nation.
Yeah, he said the first question, obviously because it's on Out.com, was like, have you faced any prejudice so far in like the business? And he was like, honestly, like not really, which I thought was amazing. And I think it's different because there is the stereotype of like the flamboyant gay performer who's like a dancer and an actor and a singer and like a circus performer because you have to be like everything in Cirque du Soleil. But it was still like really nice to hear. Like I figured there would still be something, but he was like, no, it's been great. Like, I was like, that's awesome.
and not that theater is a perfect role by any means. Like I
Right.
remember one of the community theaters that I used to work with that's right by my house. I was doing fall spot for going into my junior year. And the other fall spot was a black woman who was, doing it, and she worked, with the union in Cleveland, and we were talking on one of our breaks for, half an hour while the designer was doing something. But about like the prejudice she faced specifically in that stagehands union. And it was really, like, it was one of the impactful moments in my life where it went from, I'd read articles online about, discrimination. It's very different to talk to someone in person who, in the professional world, is like facing that, on a very real level. And like, I think it's particularly bad actually in Cleveland, because it's a very established union, and it's been there for a really long time. And it's really kind of a little bit corrupt.
We've been talking a lot recently about like just like general sexism here too, and it's like obviously like all these things are linked. But it's like really great to hear that he's having a good time with it. I'm like excited to hear how this goes because like when I think of Cirque du Soleil, I think of like Las Vegas and these like performances that are like so spectacle and like so
I have to say though that I've seen a few Cirque shows, and as spectacle as they are, they also have done such a good job of communicating like a storyline within the circus parts of it, but also just like something that's beautifully stunning that doesn't seem like flashing lights and like
contrived.
Yeah, like it's like I saw. Oh no, I don't know what it's called. Zakara or something like that, and it was so cool. Like it was so beautiful. Like I think one of Cirque's like greatest assets is that they do all these crazy circus things that are considered really spectacle, but they do it in such like a beautiful, simplistic way that I think a lot of it does happen through their music and that kind of vibe that makes it really special.
But like I thought it was cool because he says that even though Cirque like does have stories, and he does mention that like they're combining it with this like Broadway style story. So I was just wondering like how that was going to work, and if like they would still be doing all these contortionist things for every number, or like I don't know. I think it's
gonna be really interesting to see.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be a really good show.
Sinks or floats. Yeah.
I want to see it.
Let's go. The next article is Making Salad for the Stage from Center Theater Group by Sarah Rothbard. And I remember I commented on this article because I thought it was so cute.
I did too.
And I remember I was like really excited to see this article because they meant it's about making a whole stage covered in like larger than life size salad for the play Women Laughing Alone with Salad, making fun of those like a show making fun of those like stock images of like skinny women with their salad, and it's about like stereotypes. And I remember I read about that show on one of the articles like a long time ago about sexism in theater, and I was like, that sounds like a really cool show. And then I also got to read about the set for it, which is like more what I'm interested in, and it was just like kind of cool to like see something come full circle, and like I really do feel connected to this outside real world. But like I thought this was really cool just because I love hearing about how people make things, and this is kind of like a scenic props painting. Like materials finding extravaganza, and like how much research they did for it, and how many materials they had to go through, and all the dyes and the paints and all the things they had to take into consideration, especially because it's for the dead, which I thought was like really, really fascinating.
Yeah, this article like really like taught me how like as a designer, not only do you need to like know how to design, you also need to like consider the practicality of everything. Like unlike other like visual artists, like they just like design like a huge art piece. Like we have to make it like fireproof and safe
I think
and reusable. And
I think there's such like a different thing because like a painter uses paints, like a sculptor uses clay. Like it's kind of
so integrated.
But here there's like so much behind it because it has to withstand so many different things.
A props master uses manila envelopes painted to look like leaves. What?
And there's like texture and gloss, and it's just like so. It's like, and it's just like so. I don't know. There's so much detail into it, and I think that'd be very, very scary as like someone who wants to do scenic design, like of being like, I want an entire stage covered in lettuce, and then giving that to a craftsperson, and then what if they do a crap job? Like, I feel like as a designer, you should already have an idea of how that thing is made, and that's why I think it's important for designers to also know how to do things hands-on, because like maybe they should at least have an idea, or they should be. I don't really know how these things work. Yeah, a sample, or like coming in every now and then to see how things are going, or maybe for like a smaller show, even doing some of it, or being the painter, or being the props master. Like, having all these other varying experiences, so you know how to do these things, so you're not just having these crazy ideas and people won't want to work with you, and they're like, how are we going to do this? And you're going to be like, I don't know.
That's your job. That's what you get paid for.
Yeah, which maybe is the case in most theaters, but I still think it's like, that would be scary for me as a designer to
It's not able to understand that kind of process that you're asking people to go through.
Yeah, and like how practical is it, and how much is it worth it? Our next article is High School Removing Swastikas from the Producers is Latest Example of Cowardly Censorship from Onstage Blog by Chris Peterson.
Okay, so I have a lot to say about this kind of thing. And I think we all do, especially because we are freshmen, so we did just come out of high school life. I think it's ridiculous to censor theater in high schools. I mean, apart from, like, language and themes of, like, sexuality, like, that's a whole nother different thing to come over. But, like, the Swastikas and Producers, like, come on. Like, that's such a... Like, if you're going to do the Producers, like, you should know what you're getting yourself into. And I think the article makes some very interesting points, like, did the high up on the food chain in the educational world who said no swastikas in this, like, even know what the show was?
Yeah.
Or did they just hear the word swastikas?
Exactly. I think that's it, because there's such a big difference between, like, promoting Nazism and, like, having swastikas in this, like, comedic sense where it's, like, an icon, like, that's, like, clearly poking fun at the political system at that time. Like, it's, like, such a different thing.
Yeah, it's just really frustrating when, like, high schools, like, cut down a show. I'm like, if you're going to do it, you do the whole thing, or you don't do it at all. Like, you don't just, like
what does that say, like, to your students? Like, we can do the show, but we can't have swastikas.
Like, I mean, I commented on this because it basically says, we can do this show, but we're going to ignore this part of our history.
Exactly.
And, like, the scary part about ignoring the Holocaust is, like, how close, like, the Holocaust didn't happen because German people are evil. The Holocaust happened because German people are people.
And people are racist. And these things happen.
And people can become racist and can direct their hate at other people because it's easier to say it's them. Yeah. It's really easy to say it's their problem, they are the reason that this is happening. And so, like, it happens today here. And so, like, it's really important to, like, even if it's entirely in spoof, just to keep those images, you know, say, okay, you know, this happened, this is very real. And it's something that, like, it could happen in 30 years from now, we could be in a very similar place. And to, you know, cut that part of the history of the world out is, I think it's really immature and, like, short-sighted.
And I think a lot of time, at least from my high school experience, like, people will be like, oh, Producers, there's like 2 songs that we have that one actor that can sing, like, so well, and that's why we're going to do it. And I think people sometimes in these kind of environments lose the importance of these things. And I think it would have been, I mean, we don't know how it happened. We don't know if it was like no swastikas and everyone, is like that, or if there was a fight to it. Like, we don't know how it happened. But I think that it's so important to be able to talk about it as, like, a cast and crew. And then when it comes up on stage, it's like, it can be a little odd at first. It should be, but it should be.
Yeah, it says it's a small group of parents that can play, which makes me think that they really didn't know the show, and they just heard the word swastikas, and they were like, oh my god.
My poor children.
And it's like springtime for Hitler, like, are you just going to cut an entire part of the show?
And it wasn't a parent of, like, a costume designer that was like, I don't want my kid putting these things on stage, or was it a parent of the child that was acting and had to wear it? Like, I want to know that.
And it's like, are you not going to do the Sound of Music? Like, that's what I thought that was, like, a really good point that this article brought up. It's like, there's so many shows, and, like, an article, like, very similar to this, like, a few weeks ago, was about Pippin and how high school would do Pippin, because there was, like, an orgy scene, and there was, like, a lot of violence, and we're like, oh my god, sex!
Pippin.
Oh my god, violence! And it's like, what?
It happens!
And also, it's like, what show is more applicable for high school? Is it literally about, like, a young boy finding his identity and, like, self-discovering himself in, like, this crazy world, and it's, like, such a metaphor for, like, growing up and coming of age, and I was like, what show could possibly be more applicable for high schoolers, and you're not letting them do it because, like, there's, like, a scene that suggests something like this, and it's like, we're so used to all these images on TV.
Nobody in our school has ever had sex before.
I know. No. We're so, like, go crazy over these images when it's on stage, and it's like, oh, it's real people, and these are my children, these are my children's friends, but when it's on TV, like, you can see all the gore and sex people, and we're so numb to it.
Yeah. I mean, I think any it's crazy to me, ridiculous, but I mean, even at my high school, there was an original musical that actually one of my best friends wrote, and like she spent an entire year on doing this. And then when we got a new principal that we were going to do the show, it was called Dead Revolting, so it was zombies. The new principal like didn't want to do it at first because it was about zombies, and like we were all like, "What?" Like it was such a weird thing, and I think we kind of as students made enough commotion about how ridiculous it was that we did get to do it, and it was an incredible thing to do. Is that people can't be afraid of it, and it's like
plus sometimes in high school, like if you're gonna fuck up theater, like. Do it in high school.
Yeah.
It's hard to do it on Broadway. Like, as much as we want to say, like, do more diverse things on Broadway, there's a lot on the line. High school theater?
That's where you should experiment.
The worst you get is a couple parents going, oh my god, you are terrible at producing theater. And you go, we're a fucking high school.
Yeah, we're learning.
Deal with it.
Like, my high school principal wouldn't let us do a show. I forget the name of it. When I was like, I started designing it, and then he was like, oh, we can't do the show because there's a teenage pregnancy in it. And we were like, are you kidding me? Like,
that's why we have to do
it. Yeah. It's just like, people are
and it's always, it's not the like directors or anything, it's always those people high enough in
people who don't respond.
People who don't understand.
And I think it was so odd for me because I went to an arts magnet school, and you think like, they're like gonna be pushing it, and it's like we still have the same like stupid supervisors and that were like superintendents. They were like, no, that's too risky for high school, and it's like, do you know what you're talking about first of all? And like,
we're trying to artistically develop it. That's the only way these things will happen. We can't just do like. I'm trying to think of like a non-controversial musical, but really every musical has something.
There's something in all of it.
Mary Poppins over and over again.
Yeah, like
Godspell.
Why? Oh, but that has God in it. That might be too much for some people.
Well, that's all right. You know, Jesus is all right.
I mean, it's.
Although, there are people who would get very upset.
Like
about
Rent, like every show has these like topics that parents get all in a pissy fit about.
And I think it's gonna be. I think once our kind of generation moves into being the parents, it's gonna change. But it needs to like get going now because I can't read another one of these.
I know.
It's so
without
funny
being like
parents like try to shield their children from everything. Like, there's nudity, you can't watch this. Oh, there's like you can't watch this. I'm like,
I see all of this on the internet
about this eventually.
Yeah.
Like you have to like. Do you expect to like not cover their eyes when they're 30? Like
They have to. I think it's
that's what high school's for.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah, I mean it's. If it was at a middle school level, that's when it kind of becomes questionable, all of these things. But, like, high school, come on.
They can think.
Yeah. And, I mean, if they're not going to see it now, they're going to see it in
exposed to
a few years, and it's going to be even worse.
Yeah.
It's not going to scar them.
I'd rather see it in a play than in real life.
Yeah, exactly.
If you see it in a play and you're able to avoid it in real life, that's the goal.
Or then you'll know better how to deal with it.
Yeah.
And for our last article, which is Annie's favorite subject, Being Early from Unclutterer by David Cowlow.
So I'm going to start off with a personal anecdote. We have class at 8:30 for drafting on Mondays and Wednesdays. And I leave my dorm at 7:50 and get to class at 8. And then I have a full half hour to get myself ready and start class. And it is perfect. And that's what everyone should always do. You need time to get places. You need time to get there and get yourself ready. You have, when you run in last minute, and then you realize your desk is a mess, so you have to spend time cleaning it off, then you're all worried about that, and then you're not paying attention to what's happening, and it's so damn important to be early to things.
You need time to put down your bum wine.
Yes, I don't like people that are late. I very much abide by the theater policy of to be early is to be on time is to be late, and to be late is unacceptable. There's other students in our class who always walk in like when class starts at like 8:30. I will not name names because Bowers is watching this, and it stresses me out. I don't understand how people can live in this kind of world. Hold on. That's what I was gonna say. You can't leave. I know that's what I was gonna say. So I would like to apologize to my co-host here because we agreed that at 7 we would start getting ready to do this podcast.
And what time did Annie come to studio?
I went back to my dorm and fell asleep while I was taking off monster makeup, and I had woken up at 6:58, screamed. My roommate can attest to the fact that I screamed, texted them all immediately, was like, I'm coming! And it stressed me out that I was late. And
then we didn't start until 7:45.
I cannot express how much being early is so important. Like, everyone knows, like, oh, if you show up early at a job, like, that's good. Like, people like you when you do that and stuff. But it's like, you need it for yourself. Like,
no, I'm always super stressed out when I'm late. Like, when I wake up. And that's, like, it's hard for me because, like, I'm definitely not a morning person at all. Like, I always stay up late to do work. Like, it's just, like, the way that I'm been working.
That's a whole nother thing. And I am very passionate that if you should go to bed earlier and wake up earlier, too.
That's just not how my body works. But anyway, so then, like, it really stresses me out to, like, wake up right before class starts, because then I'm like, oh my god, I'm never going to be on time, especially in our program where it's like super duper important to be there on time, or to be early.
I woke up at 8:28 this morning and spent 3 minutes trying to get out of bed and scaring the shit out of myself because I was late to drafting already.
On Thursday.
I'm not drafting today. Yeah. I mean, just be early.
But it's like, I also think there's a lot of shame about people who aren't early birds.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that, like, you have to be a morning person. Like, yo, I get it. Like, I'm not most days, too. Well, I don't know. I kind of am. But, like, I just think at least, like, 5 minutes. Like, 5 minutes early, I can accept. But, like, 20 minutes is good.
I think the most important part about being early and why I'm so stressed in, like, theater is just, like, respecting other people's time.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's, like, not even, like, I don't need to get to class 20 minutes early to, like, calm myself down. Like, I can get there at 8:25 and, like, I feel fine and I have time to get set up and, like, ready to learn. But to be, like, early to an interview or early to, like, a discussion or early to a group project, I think that's important because then you're showing, like, how you respect their time and how you want to make sure that their time is spent well.
Wait, I have a confession that's really weird. So, for all my college interviews, I showed up 2 hours early everywhere, but I didn't want people to know I was that eager. Like, even if I was supposed to be there at 8 in the morning, like, I showed up at 6 in the morning, so I would sit in my car for, like, an hour just so, like, I would, like, get there and, like, find the signs, like, be like, okay, I know exactly where I'm going, but I would, like, drive across the street so they wouldn't see me in the car or anything. I'd be, like, an hour early, and then I would just sit there and wait, and it's, like, I don't know, maybe it's just an anxiety thing that I have, but it's just,
I don't know, for me,
important.
I like to be right on time. Like, when I get there early, I don't know, I think it's just, like, I feel, but definitely, even though I'm, like, I feel like for theater, I'm, like, a late kind of person, but
you're just an on-time person.
Yeah, when I'm with people outside of theater, I'm like, oh, so you can be this late to this thing?
I thought it was funny that, like, you invited your friend to see Plague in Venice, and she showed up 20 minutes late to the
show.
To the evening
show.
Yeah.
Why can't shows start on time? Can we talk about that?
No, but wait, I was
it
like...
starts at 8. I want the curtain open at 8:01.
No, but yeah, so she was like, oh, like, I'm going to be 10 minutes late. I was like, oh, okay, but the doors close at 8:05 because the show starts at 8. And she was like, what? That's ridiculous. I was like, that's not ridiculous.
Like, this is down at 7:30.
Yeah.
Also, I think, isn't it true that Broadway shows always start 8 minutes late?
What? No, I've say in a Broadway show it's starting like 20 minutes late, and it makes me very angry.
But, like,
and I'm like, where is this stage manager?
But it's, like, standard to not start right on time because...
Yes, I know, but let's change that, please. My, like, big
starts with you.
senior year high school show that I directed, every night we said we start at 7:30. I called go at 7:30. Oh I was watching the clock, and so many audience people were mad at me, but I was like, you come up earlier next time.
Oh, another thing is, being early is important, like, being late is annoying, but ending late is even more annoying because, like...
Right, so if everyone gets there early and you can, like, get going early, then you can end on time.
Yeah, if you end late, then that affects the whole entire schedule for the rest of the day.
Also, just walking fast, I recommend.
Susan. Class ends at 12:20.
So what did we learn today, everyone?
Speaking of ending on time, thank you for joining us on our News from the Real World podcast extra credit special.
I hope you enjoyed your time with us.
As much as we enjoyed discussing these articles.
Jesus Christ, Eddie.
Oh my god. Thanks.
Thank you.
Beat me out, bubbers.